Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Today we are going to be diving into this book here. It is a book of creation, a fantasy adventure, part 1, Someone in Between the Present and the Past. Chapter 1, In the Halls of Exile. Year 9, Someone in Between. Sunrise. Azrah turned and he saw the light as it bounced off the floor of his cell. It shone into the far recess of the cave, adjacent to where he stood, and it lit up a portion of the wall. The light had to travel some distance to reach where Azrah stood, but the smoothness of the manufactured floor helped it to bounce in a solid, yet weak beam. His turquoise feathers shifted in the ray of light as he looked at the words he had carved into the wall's rigid surface so many years ago. He remembered the soft sound of his sister's tweets as he read their words over. Let it be known that an entire race of people can be redeemed through the actions of a single being. Their words were the one thing Azrah had left to hold on to, and no matter how much uncounted time passed in exile, he had faith that he would live to see the Creator's plan through to the end. Hard as it may have been for him, tossed away to be forgotten, to hold onto his faith, after nearly 10 years, Azrah had still not diminished. Feathers? Tweets? You see, Azrah and his kind are what Earthlings might have called a raptor. And they were not fully reptilian. There was a distinct aspect to them that some might see as humanoid. I'll find you, girls. He whistled wistfully as his shimmering emerald eyes locked on the engraving. Your words have such power to resolve even the most cowardly of hearts. He looked at his surroundings, and here they hold the power to steady my mind. He rambled in a daze, to steady it in these, the hours that would bring despair to the common man. He turned from the wall, away from the light, and peered in the darkest recess of the cave. The longer he stared at it, the more the shadows seemed to breathe and seethe and stare right back. Despair. It hangs in wait amongst the shadows of my cell, only held at bay by the light of this truth. The wary mandrake turned back to the phrase, raised his arm, and lightly drew his claws across the shallow scratches in the surface, the click of his nails adding to the echoes of the lightly dripping water in the empty, cold space. An unfamiliar sound caught his attention and brought him out of his meditation. It was coming from the cave entrance. Azrah headed towards the light as he made his way over to the entrance to peer up the shaft and see what he could. He shielded his eyes against the light to look up, and he flinched aside as a trickle of small rocks and pebbles tumbled down the steep incline, their shadows breaking the column of light that shone into the cave. He stepped back as the stones skipped around his feet. Then a larger shadow spotted the ground as a bumbling caterwaul huffed and squeaked, tumbling to the bottom of the cell. Azrah jumped away from the opening. A dizzy little ball of fluff at last bounced and slid to a quick stop on the cave floor. Limbs outstretched and claws dug in. She shook her head and let loose a gruff meow while looking around. On her shoulder, under the fur, a small green light blinked. Azrah leaned down to look at the little thing. As he moved forward, his nose inched out into the column of light to reveal a long and chiseled beak, more a snout that sniffed the air. The cub's eyes widened at his rows of teeth. When Azrah fully stepped into the light, standing on 2 feet, his broad and towering stature finally frightened her. The cub shot backwards on all fours, with an arched back and a raised tail, and when Azrah raised his plume in curiosity, she let out a small yet hearty growl. Azrah tilted his head aside, and his crown of feathers eased as he observed the little creature. Not wanting to threaten her, he crouched down and wrapped his tail around his feet to seem smaller and stayed absolutely still. The cub calmed after a minute, but it took much longer than that for Azrah to coax her over to him. When she finally came close enough to sniff his hands, he laughed as she seemed shocked at how he smelled. Yes, he chirped with a chuckle and a nod. I'm sure I'm quite pungent. He whistled with quick, sharp chirps that startled the cub. She drew back in caution. "My apologies," he offered in a more hushed tone. "Where did you come from?" He looked at the blinking green light, not expecting an answer. Still, he wondered. In just a couple of hours, Azrah and the cub became best of friends as they played and played. Rough and tumble, they wrestled as Azrah let her gnaw on him here and there. The whole time, he would catch a better and better glimpse of the blinking light. At one point, the cub's fur wrinkled just right, and Azrah saw the broken skin flip open to reveal the tiny device. There's a cat clawing my back right now. Luna, hi. How you doing? You want to come up and say hi to everybody? Come on. Come on up and say hi to everybody. Come here. Come on up and... Oh, no. That's a no. She'll say hi in a little bit. Where was I? We'll start at this paragraph. In just a couple of hours, Azrah and the cub became best of friends as they played and played. Rough and tumble, they wrestled as Azrah let her gnaw on him here and there. The whole time, he would catch a better and better glimpse of the blinking light. At one point, the cub's fur wrinkled just right, and Azrah saw the broken skin flip open to reveal the tiny device. Did you catch yourself on something in the fall? He hooked it with the tip of his nail as the cub flinched away with a howl, and, just like that, the little blinking light flicked to the ground. The little furball, on the other hand, trotted over and poised herself near the entrance. There, she twisted around to lick her shoulder. Azrah watched the object light up the cave in a rhythmic pulse, and he figured it could only be one thing: a tracking beacon. He snuffed it out under his foot with a crunch. The cub stretched its whole length up against the rocky slope as it reached toward the barred opening. With one paw farther forward than the other, she looked from the entrance to Azrah and back again. Azrah had made the climb many times before in futile attempts to escape, but this time the climb could actually be of some help to his little friend. He walked over, bent down, and scooped the cub up in his arm. He tucked her in close, and with practiced skill, he began the ascent. Not quite straight up and down, the shaft resembled more of an ancient waterfall. It even trickled with a spit's worth of water that Azrah needed to sip at from time to time as he climbed. At best, with all four limbs under him, scaling the rise made his core burn. With the added weight of the cub, her nails dug in, and the use of only one arm right now, the rise tortured him. Nearly half a day had passed by the time he reached the top. Even though he alternated which arm carried his little friend and which arm did all the heavy lifting, they throbbed and blazed with the shakes. With a final boost upward, he let go of the rock face and grabbed hold of the bars that closed off the hole. He wedged himself into the corner and, anchored safely, he pulled the cub from his side and tried to lift. But his strength gave out, and the cub clawed at his forearm to hold on as the mandrake swung her back into his side. His grip on the bar held tight, but not for much longer. With a deep breath, he tried again and hurled the cub with all his might. With an exhale, he let go. The cub flew up and through the bars with a yowl, sailed through the air and landed safe on the ground, all sprawled out. With a shake of her head, she turned back to the hole only to see a smattering of feathers drifting down the dark shaft. He had not the wind to grunt when he hit the cave floor. After several minutes, Azrah rolled over with a raking gasp as he opened his eyes. That was a close one. Better not die here, he thought. He slowly sat up, holding his head, and slurred, "There's no way back from this place." Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's chapter 1 of A Book of Creation. Thank you for joining me with this. If you would like to read ahead, you can get a copy of this on Amazon Books. The link is in the description down below. We will see you guys next week with chapter 2. And until then, you guys have a great one. See you around.
Hi, darling. Everybody saw you claw me in the back. I'm sorry I wasn't paying attention to you. You want to say hi to everybody? No? No interest in saying hi to anybody? That's just how it is, huh? Is that just how it is? All right, darling. All right. Oh, here we go. Oh. Oh, you're hungry. You want food. You want food, huh? All right. Let's go get you some food.
We're gonna go get us some food. Thanks for hanging out, guys. We'll see you later.